Dennis, you have managed Fleetwood Mac from 1981 to the late 90s, a band that has sold over 120 million records, one of the biggest bands of all time, and they're still going. I saw them in Brisbane recently. They were excellent.
I was a kid that grew up in a housing commission area in Melbourne, Glenroy, Broadmeadows area, and it's funny what got me. I'd started playing drums as a very young kid at about 6 or 7, and I'd beaten the kitchen chairs up so much with pieces of dowling that my mum decided to buy me a drum kit, a second-hand Broadway, which was about 20 years old when she bought it. An interesting turn to my career was when I got beaten up. I guess when you're the blonde-headed drummer in a band in Glenroy, you're not the most popular kid with all the thugs, and I got badly beaten up when I was 14 or 15 by 3 guys with a cricket bat, and that was in hospital for a few months. And when I came out of hospital, I said to myself, this will never happen to me again. And I decided to take up martial arts and took up karate and ended up doing pretty good at that, and became Australia's first kickboxing full contact champion. Wow. And it was those two things. It was my music and my martial arts skills that led me to work for Fleetwood Mac on their Rumours tour. The phone rang in the middle of the night, pouring rain, cold winter's night in Melbourne, and I hear a pounding on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's my mother, and she goes, "Dennis, there's a phone call. It's Mick Fleetwood on the phone." I went, "Mum, it's just my friend's taking the piss." She said, "No, I heard the beeps, beep, 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 beep." And that was the international dial tone, and I said, "Oh geez," I jumped up, raced into the house, got on the phone, and it was Mick, and he basically had said, "Well, do you want the good news or the bad news, D?" And Dennis, and I said, "Well, give me the good news." He says, "Well, the good news is, would you still like to come and work for us?" And I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Oh, that's good." I said, "What's the bad news?" He said, "Your flight's leaving at 11 o'clock in the morning." So Mum and I sat up and wrote letters to my girlfriends and my boss and other friends and family, and off I was the next morning.
And what's one of your most memorable moments of those 17 years, or something that stands out?
Well, there's a lot, but one was, we were in Houston, Texas, and we're in a big private jet, of course, for the tour, which Fleetwood Mac's have been flying in private jets for a long time. And Lindsay calls me, who loves Mexican food, and we're playing in Dallas the next night, but we're in Houston. He goes, "D, there's this amazing restaurant in Dallas called Herrera's. I want to go to dinner there." I said, "Yeah, but that's like a 3 or 4 hour drive, 5-hour drive." He says, "No, organise the jet." And I went, "Are you kidding?" He says, "No, let's do it." So myself and Richard Dashett, who was the producer and our sound engineer, he produced Rumours, one of the co-producers, and he was the sound engineer on it. He said, "Get Richard, we're going." And so he says, "Just organise it." I call the captain, and I said, "Hey, Captain, we want to fire the jet up and fly to Dallas to go to this restaurant." So he says, "Well, I can't." He says, "Give me a couple of hours." He had to get clearance and God knows what. Cut a long story short, we got the jet, just the 4 of us. The rest of the band didn't want to know about it. They're all in bed and doing their own thing. We fly into Dallas, and then we get there, and there's this funky little street corner hole in the wall with a lineup of about 40 people trying to get in at lunchtime, about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I go, "Oh, geez, now we're in trouble," because we had to get back because we had a show in Houston that night. So I'm going, oh. So I walk along the whole line and say, "Hey, guys, I'm the road manager for Fleetwood Mac. I got Lindsay Buckingham in the car. We need to get in. We got a show in Houston tonight and one in Dallas tonight. If you let us jump the line, you all get a ticket to the show." Every one of them just put up a huge roar and laughed, and they went, "You got it." So I went along, got all their names, got Lindsay into the restaurant. We all ate our hearts out, left at 2:30, 3 o'clock, flew back and did the show at 8 o'clock that night.
That's amazing.
It must have cost him $20,000 or $30,000 back then.
I mean, there are so many talented artists out there, but it's a very hard road to the top. I mean, in your experience, are there any key traits or attributes that you've found like stars to have and share?
Yeah, yeah. It really is obvious to me now when I'm looking at talent, and there's a lot of good talent out there. I guess with all of these TV shows now, I get a bit tired of hearing, "Oh, you are the next big thing, you're the next superstar." Really, none of them really know that a superstar has a certain personality and a certain quality of demeanour, and the way they either perform on stage, the way off stage. It is a chemistry that is undeniable once you've worked with them. Now I think I can identify that pretty quick when I'm looking at artists. And I'm not seeing a lot of it today. I see a lot of very good people, but I don't see where the next Queen is coming from. I don't see maybe the next Beatles or the Rolling Stones or even a Fleetwood Mac. I'm struggling to I'm seeing a lot of really good mediocrity, but I'm not seeing the next superstar just yet.
When you first came to Noosa, was that a very strong memory were you a young man?
I was. I used to come up with the wrinkles, with the old folks. My mum and dad had a caravan. That was quite a rich asset to have in Glenroy. I think my dad either stole it or borrowed it. He would hate me. He's passed away, sadly, God bless him. But on school holidays in January, he decided we're getting in the van and we go up the coast and spend like 3 days driving. You know, the aircon was winding the window down.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got here and the humidity was as thick as soup. But we'd get to Noosa eventually, and we parked at where the park is there now, at the end of Hastings Street, and that was a caravan park, and we'd stay there for a couple of weeks and then do it all, head back, and we did that about every 3 years, and I always loved Noosa. And when I'd come back on Fleetwood Mac or Men at Work tours, I'd always find myself coming back to Noosa and just laying on the beach and going to the cafes and restaurants, and I watched it grow nicely. And when we decided to come home in 2004, 2005, I always said to my family, we're going to go back and we want to live in Noosa. And after California for 23 years, I needed to live in the beautiful climate.
Yeah. There's a plethora of great places to eat in Noosa. Do you have a favourite spot or one of them that you like?
Bistro C.
Great.
Calamari and a cold beer there on a hot day, beautiful day overlooking the bay is probably one of the nicest experiences you could ever have.
If you could live anywhere on the Sunshine Coast, is there a pocket that stands out for you or you particularly love, or a street?
Well, my street.
Yeah.
I love Old Taunton. I love the old Queenslanders. I lived in a modern house up in Timbiwa for 10 years, and then we've purchased the old. When the girls had all gone off to uni and we had the empty nesters, so to speak. We decided to downsize, and I stopped mowing 5 acres of land, and so I could chill out and write my new book that I'm working on at the moment. I think Noosa is the best place on earth. I just love it here.
Yeah.
Why would you live anywhere else when you can live here?